What happens when royalty meets reality television and refuses to play by the rules? In just 36 seconds, one comment would turn a simple interview into the most explosive moment in late-night history. Greg Gutfeld sat behind his desk that evening, ready for what he thought would be another standard celebrity interview. The studio audience buzzed with excitement. Meghan Markle walked onto the stage in a designer dress that probably cost more than most people make in a year. She smiled and waved, but there was something different in her eyes, something cold. "Welcome to the show," Greg said, standing to greet her. "Thanks for being here." "Of course," she replied, settling into the guest chair. "Though I must say, I was surprised you wanted me here. Your show doesn't usually feature people of my, shall we say, caliber." The audience went quiet. Greg laughed it off. "Well, we like to mix things up. Keep things interesting." "Interesting," she repeated, as if the word tasted bitter in her mouth. "Is that what you call it?" Greg shifted in his seat. "So, let's talk about your new project. I understand you're working on something pretty exciting." Meghan crossed her legs and leaned back. "I am. But first, I think we need to address something. Your show has made several jokes about me over the past few months. Don't you think your viewers deserve to hear you apologize for that?" The audience gasped. Greg's smile faded slightly. "Apologize? Meghan, this is a comedy show. We make jokes about everyone. Politicians, celebrities, public figures. That's what we do." "So you think it's funny to mock someone who's been through what I've been through?" Her voice rose. "You think it's comedy to make fun of someone who's suffered?" "I think comedy doesn't have boundaries," Greg said calmly. "And I think public figures are fair game. You've made millions off your public image. You can't have it both ways." Meghan's face turned red. "How dare you? You have no idea what it's like to be in my position. The scrutiny, the pressure, the racism." "I'm not saying your experiences aren't valid," Greg responded. "But coming on a comedy show and demanding an apology for jokes is a bit much, don't you think?" "A bit much?" She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You want to know what's a bit much? Your entire network, your entire audience, sitting here, judging me, when none of you have walked a day in my shoes." Greg took a breath. "Meghan, nobody's judging you. We invited you here to have a conversation, to talk about your work. But if you want to turn this into something else, that's your choice." "My choice?" she snapped. "You people always do this. You invite someone on, act all friendly, and then you attack them. Well, I'm not falling for it." "Nobody's attacking you," Greg said, his voice steady. "You came out here swinging. I asked you about your project, and you immediately went on the offensive." The audience murmured in agreement. Meghan noticed, and her expression hardened even more. "Of course they agree with you," she said, gesturing to the crowd. "They're your audience. They're programmed to think whatever you tell them to think." "That's insulting to them," Greg said. "These are intelligent people who can make up their own minds." "Intelligent?" Meghan scoffed. "If they were intelligent, they wouldn't be watching this garbage." The audience erupted. Some booed. Others shouted. Greg held up his hand to calm them down. "Okay, let's take a step back here," he said. "You're clearly upset about something, but coming on my show and insulting my audience is not okay. These people took time out of their lives to be here." "Oh, please," Meghan waved her hand dismissively. "They're here because they have nothing better to do. Just like the people watching at home, sitting on their couches, eating their junk food, judging people who are actually doing something with their lives." Greg's jaw tightened. "You need to stop, right now. You can disagree with me all you want, but you don't get to insult the people watching." "Why not?" she challenged. "You insult people every single night. You mock them. You belittle them. But when someone does it back, suddenly it's a problem?" "There's a difference between political satire and personally attacking regular people," Greg explained. "We punch up, not down. You're sitting here, dripping in diamonds, calling working-class Americans lazy and stupid. Meghan stood up. I never said they were stupid. You heavily implied it, Greg countered. And honestly, I think you've said enough. This interview is clearly not going the way either of us planned. Sit down, she demanded. I'm not finished. Actually, you are, Greg said firmly. This is my show, and I'm not going to let you continue disrespecting my audience. Your show? Meghan laughed again, that harsh, brittle sound. This isn't a show. It's a circus. And you're the ringmaster of a bunch of clowns. The audience was on their feet now, shouting at her. Security guards started moving toward the stage. You need to leave, Greg said, standing up. Now. Make me, Meghan challenged, crossing her arms. Greg looked at the security team. Please escort our guest out of the building. You can't do this to me, Meghan shouted as two security guards approached her. Do you know who I am? Yeah, Greg said coldly. You're someone who just wore out their welcome. I'm royalty, she screamed. You can't treat me like this. You're a guest on my show who's acting like a spoiled child, Greg shot back, and that's exactly how you're being treated. The security guards gently took her arms. Meghan tried to pull away. Get your hands off me, she yelled. This is assault. I'll sue you. I'll sue all of you. You can sue whoever you want, Greg said, but right now, you're leaving. As they started walking her toward the exit, Meghan continued shouting, You're all beneath me. Every single one of you. You're nothing. Nothing. The audience booed louder. Some people threw their hands up in disgust. Others just shook their heads. This is a violation of my rights, Meghan screamed. I'm being silenced. Just like always. They silence strong women who speak the truth. The truth? Greg called after her. You came here looking for a fight, and you got one. That's the truth. Meghan stopped at the edge of the stage and turned around. You're going to regret this. All of you. When the world sees how I was treated here tonight, you'll be finished. The world is seeing it right now. Greg gestured to the cameras. Live television, remember? And what they're seeing is someone who can't handle being treated like everyone else. I'm not like everyone else, Meghan shot back. That's what you people can't stand. I'm better than this. Better than you. Then act like it, Greg said simply. That seemed to break something in her. Meghan's face contorted with rage. You smug, arrogant little man. You think you're so clever with your little jokes and your little show. But you're nothing. You hear me? Nothing. I hear you, Greg said calmly. And so does everyone else. Is this really how you want to be remembered? For a moment, just a moment, Meghan seemed to realize what she was doing. Her expression flickered with something that might have been regret, but it passed quickly. I want to be remembered as someone who didn't take garbage from people like you, she said. Fair enough, Greg replied. I'll remember you as someone who couldn't handle a simple interview without having a meltdown. The security guards resumed walking her out. Meghan went with them this time, but she kept talking, kept shouting. You'll see, she called back. Everyone will see what really happened here. How I was ambushed. How I was attacked. We have the footage, Greg reminded her. Everyone can see exactly what happened. As Meghan disappeared backstage, her voice could still be heard echoing through the studio. This isn't over. This is far from over. Greg turned back to his desk and sat down. The audience was still buzzing, still processing what they'd just witnessed. He took a sip of water and looked directly into the camera. Well, he said, that went well. A few people in the audience laughed nervously. The tension was still thick in the air. Look, Greg continued, I don't enjoy kicking people off the show. I really don't. But there's a line. And when you cross it, when you start attacking the people who support this show, who watch every night, who make all of this possible, that's where I draw the line. The audience applauded. Greg nodded in appreciation. We invited her here in good faith, he went on. We wanted to have a real conversation. But from the moment she sat down, she came with an agenda. She wanted conflict. She wanted drama. And you know what? She got it. More applause. Greg held up his hand. But here's the thing, he said. This isn't about her. This is about respect. Mutual respect. You can disagree with someone without insulting them. You can have different opinions without calling people stupid or lazy or programmed. That's basic human decency. Someone in the audience shouted, "Tell her, Greg." He smiled. "I think I just did." The audience laughed, and some of the tension finally broke. "I want to be clear about something," Greg said, his tone becoming more serious. "I defend everyone's right to speak their mind, even when I disagree with them, even when they say things I find offensive. That's what free speech is about. But free speech doesn't mean freedom from consequences. And it doesn't mean you get to use someone else's platform to attack their audience." The applause was thunderous now. People were on their feet again, but this time it was in support. "She accused me of punching down," Greg continued, "of mocking people who don't deserve it. But here's what she doesn't understand. Comedy is about truth. It's about pointing out hypocrisy and absurdity wherever we find it. And yeah, sometimes that means making jokes about powerful people who take themselves way too seriously." The audience cheered. Greg waited for them to quiet down. "But you know what comedy isn't?" he asked. "It isn't looking down on regular people. It isn't calling them lazy or stupid because they watch television. It isn't acting like you're better than everyone else because of who you married or what title you have." Someone shouted, "Preach." "She kept saying she's royalty," Greg said. "Like that's supposed to mean something here. Like we're supposed to bow down and kiss the ring. But this is America. We don't do that here. We treat everyone the same. Kings, queens, princes, princesses, they're all just people. And if they act like entitled brats, we call them out on it." The audience was completely with him now, hanging on every word. "I've had presidents on this show," Greg said. "Senators, governors, CEOs of major corporations, people with real power, real influence. And you know what? Most of them can take a joke. Most of them understand that being in the public eye means being subject to criticism and satire. That's the deal. You want the fame? You get the scrutiny too." He paused, taking another sip of water. "But every once in a while," he continued, "you get someone who thinks they're special, who thinks the rules don't apply to them, who thinks they can say whatever they want without any pushback. And that's when things get interesting." The audience laughed. They knew he was talking about what had just happened. "She said I attacked her," Greg noted. "But let's be honest. I asked her about her project. That was it. That was my big attack. And she immediately went on the defensive, started demanding apologies, started insulting everyone in sight. That's not someone who's confident in their position. That's someone who's looking for a fight." People nodded in agreement throughout the studio. "And you know what the sad part is?" Greg asked. "We could have had a good conversation. We could have talked about her work, her experiences, her perspective on things. But she didn't want that. She wanted to be a victim. She wanted to walk out of here and say, 'See? See how they treated me? See how mean they are?'" He shook his head. "Well, sorry," he said. "But that's not what happened. What happened is she came on the show, insulted my audience, insulted me, insulted the entire concept of the show, and then acted shocked when there were consequences. That's not victimhood. That's accountability." The applause started again. Greg smiled. "I'm sure we'll see clips of this all over the internet tomorrow," he said. "People will analyze it. They'll take sides. They'll argue about who was right and who was wrong. And that's fine. That's what people do. But anyone who actually watched what happened here tonight knows the truth. They know who started the conflict. They know who kept escalating it. And they know who ended it." Someone in the audience yelled, You did. I did, Greg agreed. Because it's my show. And I have a responsibility to the people who work here, the people who watch, and the people who sit in this audience. I'm not going to let anyone, I don't care who they are, come in here and disrespect them. The standing ovation lasted almost a full minute. Greg stood up and waved, acknowledging their support. When they finally settled down, he leaned against his desk. You know, he said, there's going to be a lot of talk about what I should have done differently. People will say I should have been more patient, more understanding, more willing to let her vent. And maybe they're right. Maybe I could have handled it better. He paused. But you know what? He continued. I'm okay with how I handled it. Because at the end of the day, this show is about honesty. It's about calling things as we see them. And what I saw tonight was someone who came here with bad intentions, who treated everyone around her with contempt, and who deserved to be shown the door. The audience agreed vocally. Greg nodded. We're going to take a quick break, he announced. When we come back, we'll try to get this show back on track. Maybe have some actual fun. Sound good? The audience cheered their approval. As the show cut to commercial, Greg sat back down at his desk. He could hear Meghan's voice, still echoing in his mind, still shouting about how she'd been wronged. But he knew the truth. And more importantly, everyone watching knew the truth. Sometimes people reveal exactly who they are when they're under pressure. And tonight, Meghan Markle had revealed herself completely. The cameras came back on after the commercial break. Greg was composed, professional, ready to move forward. All right, he said to the audience and the viewers at home. That was something, wasn't it? Nervous. Laughter rippled through the studio. I've been doing this show for a long time, Greg continued, and I've had some wild moments. But that, I have to say, was a first. I've never had someone come on and immediately declare war on everyone in the room. He shuffled some papers on his desk. But you know what? He said. That's live television. That's what makes it exciting. You never know what's going to happen. You never know when someone's going to completely lose it on camera. The audience laughed more freely now. The shock was wearing off. I want to thank all of you, Greg said, gesturing to the crowd, for being here tonight, for witnessing that absolute train wreck, and for having my back when things got ugly. That means more than you know. People clapped and cheered. Greg smiled genuinely. Now, he said, let's talk about what we learned tonight, because I think there are some valuable lessons in what just happened. He counted on his fingers. Number 1, just because someone has a title doesn't mean they deserve respect. Respect is earned through actions, not inherited through marriage. The audience agreed loudly. Number 2, if you're going to come on a show and pick a fight, make sure you're ready for the consequences. Because sometimes the person you're fighting with has a microphone and a platform, and no problem using them. More laughter and applause. And number 3, never, ever insult the audience of the show you're currently on. That's just basic common sense. But apparently, common sense isn't so common anymore. The audience loved that one. Greg was on a roll now. She called you programmed, he said. She called you lazy. She implied you were stupid. And all because you chose to spend your evening here, supporting this show. That tells you everything you need to know about how she views regular people. Someone shouted something supportive. Greg pointed at them. Exactly, he said. She thinks she's better than everyone else. And the scary part is, she genuinely believes it. She's not pretending. She's not playing a character. That's really how she sees the world. He walked to the edge of the stage, closer to the audience. You know what I love about this audience? He asked. You're real people. You have real jobs, real families, real problems. You're not sitting in some mansion somewhere, completely disconnected from reality. You're living actual lives, and that's worth more than any royal title could ever be. The applause was deafening. Greg had to wait for it to die down before continuing. "She wanted me to apologize for making jokes," he said. "But I'm not going to do that. Because the day I stop making jokes about powerful people who take themselves too seriously is the day I need to find a new job. That's what we do here. We point out absurdity. We mock pretension. We refuse to bow down to anyone." People were on their feet again. Greg basked in their energy. "And you know what the beautiful thing is?" he asked. "She played right into it. She proved every point we've ever made about her. She showed everyone exactly who she is. No editing, no spin, just pure, unfiltered entitlement." The audience roared their agreement. This was turning into something bigger than just a failed interview. It was becoming a moment of unity between Greg and his viewers. "I'm not going to spend the rest of the show talking about her," Greg said, "because honestly, she's not worth it. She had her moment. She blew it. And now we move on." He walked back to his desk and sat down. "But I do want to say one more thing," he added. "To anyone watching at home who thinks they can come on this show and act like that, think again. This is a place of respect. Mutual respect. You respect us, we respect you. But the moment you start throwing insults around, the moment you start acting like you're too good to be here, that's when the gloves come off." The audience cheered. Greg nodded. "All right," he said, clapping his hands together. "Enough about that disaster. Let's get to some actual content, shall we?" And just like that, the show moved forward. But nobody in that studio, and nobody watching at home, would forget what they'd witnessed. The night Meghan Markle came on Greg Gutfeld's show and showed the world exactly who she really was.